Alrighty, well, a very, very happy Wednesday, and welcome to another episode of the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is February 11th of 2026. How is everyone doing today? Um, I gotta be honest with you. I was actually just talking to my wife about this last night. I got lost track of what day it is, to be honest, with everything that's kind of been going on, not only within the house, but within sports to be, and all due respect. So, man, when I was realized that today's already Wednesday, we're halfway through the week. I mean, I'm like, great, we got a couple more days, but you know, I I hate to reveal this, but in honesty, this is the time of the week where I struggle the most coming up and finding content for people. God's honest truth. You probably hear it in the show quite often, but I do struggle on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, or even on a Friday to come up with a full hour of content. And I like to stay persistent in the time frames that I do my episodes on. I don't want to give you a 20-minute episode. I don't want to give you a 49-minute episode. I'd like to give you about a 55 to an hour episode. For one, it's a direct shot from start to finish. It's raw, it's authentic, it's my opinion, the ups and downs, the distractions, the hiccups that all tied along into this episode that you listen to on a daily basis. It is from start to finish. I don't like to do pre-recordings. I don't like to do, uh, where I do a segment and then I stop, a segment and I stop. And, I wish, and I honestly, this is what I would like to do. I would love to get back to doing segments where I also place these little breaks in between. It takes a little extra work, but I think it helped me navigate my show directionally when I broke things up segment by segment and I had this minute or two break in between, like we did years ago, where I was able to reset myself and then roll into a segment. And then once the segment was done, I was able to close it and then go into another little break, so to speak. That has been my style. That's been my favorite style. That also I think requires me to go live, to be honest, which is another thing I've thought of. I've been using Riverside, and it's only been 6 weeks since I've started Riverside, and I like Riverside. Um, I am, I like the Riverside concept of being able to have its own editing tools within the program. It pulls out magic clips for us, so it kind of helps at least navigate, all right, here's what content we think is good to use. And it's one of those programs that helps me out trying to expand my content out there. And so one thing I'm trying to currently catch up on, or if you haven't been paying attention to be on our social media pages, are our short videos. I do have a whole bunch. I am creating. I'm just trying to get them. Ever since being sick, it's been everything thrown at each other. So I'm trying to get back. That's the only thing that I'm personally behind on with this show. But I'm just looking at possibly what the future holds, and I don't want to jump into the future without knowing where it's going. Because the last thing I want to do is give you some sort of taste or envision of what to expect, and then we have to stop, put a pause to it and stop, and it's not fair to you guys. So I'm finding my comfortability right now with the other stuff that I have going on, and the other stuff I have going on is I've talked highly about this show. It's about with Enlightened Studios. Enlightened Studios it's a performing arts company in Cincinnati, and they are growing. This year, they have multiple productions on the schedule, and they look to grow this year and establish themselves and grow beyond the city of Cincinnati. And as they do so, they are looking to expand their region of the performing arts and everything that's kind of tied along into it. So I have joined their social media marketing team, where we have collaborated and created posts and maintain social media the best we can, promoting upcoming events and productions and, local community support and announcements and all that stuff. And within that, we also have a podcast called Light in the City. It's kind of an umbrella channel on the podcasting network that allows us to create different podcasts to publish weekly. So, and I have a podcast that releases every Monday called the Enlightened Experience, where I come on and just kind of give you a weekly roundup of what's going on with Enlightened Studios, where is it headed, what's going on in the community, what upcoming events that could take an interest to, and that's kind of, and then promotional stuff. So, we're working really hard with that. I'm excited to see where it goes and to see the direction it takes. It's something that I have supported for years, and I'm glad that I'm a part of this team. Glad that I'm a part of the family, and I'm learning so much, and we're all learning so much. But I'm taking away this experience that, we do see a direction. We do see that light at the end of the tunnel, but it doesn't, it's getting there, which is the grind and the commitment that we make to this. So with that is trying to, I know where I want to take this show. It's making sure that I can deliver on that for you guys. So sometimes at the end of the week, I kind of start running out of ideas, and I don't want to cut this down to, oh, well, I'm only going to do a show 3 days a week. It doesn't necessarily fit my cup of tea. 1 hour a day, I think, keeps me involved. I think it keeps me relevant with updating and news stories. I know a lot of it sounds maybe repetitive. We talked about it, multiple times in 1 week, and that's fine. This is kind of, and I can tell you right now what I realize, and I think other, stations and podcasts kind of say this, is that this is kind of that dead week for this week and next week has been almost a dead period in sports, at least in the primary sports that I talk about. And I say that because when I'm trying to find stories and news that I can relate to and that I can really have these conversations with, I can get all that stuff done almost in one episode. And then afterwards, it's like, well, what's new? And it's kind of hard to say because, we just got the Super Bowl out of the way with back last Sunday. Pitchers and catchers are reported. And the one thing I don't want to drain you out with is the hype of getting ready for Major League Baseball and a full 162 games before the season even starts. And it's easy to do so because I feel like this is my holy grail. This is my regimen of being able to talk baseball. I like talking baseball quite often, and more so, to be honest, than football or wrestling or basketball or any other sports. So it's easy for me to dive into baseball so early on, talk about nonsense and the little things, and get you drained out mentally for before the season even is among us. I mean, we're not even a month away before the season starts, but I do got to say it will be here before you know it. So we do have a little bit of baseball conversations I do want to get into. We do have some football conversations that I want to get into. And we have a little bit of wrestling news. So we have a little bit of everything for you in this episode. And I wanted to start things off by talking about the beginning of spring training. Now, this conversation is going to be lingered around Major League Baseball because that's where we're at. Pitchers and catchers reported. Players are set to report if they haven't already reported. And that's kind of the take today. Position players have more than likely are already at training camp before their report dates. It's just a common practice. And I like to see that, Ellie De La Cruz, Suarez, Stevenson, Key Brian Hayes, JJ Bleday. I love to watch our players, among any other players in the sport, to arrive early and get the extra work in. What I don't like is within 24 to 48 hours before any games officially go underway in spring training, we see a rack of injuries among players. I want to break that down for you because there is a difference. There's players like pitchers, usually common when know that they're having, they've had elbow surgery, hand surgery throughout the offseason that has rolled over into the season, and they are still going to be out for a good part of the year. I can understand and respect that. But it's when position players mainly, are rolling into spring training, getting evaluated by the doctors, and within days, within minutes, you find themselves on the 15, 16-day IL. And it's kind of gut-wrenching, to be honest. As a fan, I look forward to seeing all the players come into spring training healthy, and especially to start the season healthy. It's one thing if you play throughout spring training and you get injured. It's and it's also common to come into spring training, start getting the excessive work in, and pull a hamstring or pull a groin or have turf toe or, bruise a wrist or a rib or whatever the case may be, and you'll be out for a few days. But if you're sitting here coming into spring training and you're going to be out or you receive an injury early on, it's gut-wrenching. I think it's deceiving as a coach, as a manager, as a GM, as an owner, to watch your players that you just signed or you're looking forward to promoting this season, and they are beginning, before anyone gets a chance to look at them, they're out on injuries. It's almost like I'm asking myself, what are you doing during the off season? I've seen players join the Winter League. They go down south to the Dominican Republic and join their winter leagues, the Mexican League, and whatever is available to be played in baseball around the world. A lot of players take the initiative to go out and find and to keep practicing out their skill. And I commend them for that. There's other players that run camps to help kids and other young adults to better their skills It's a way that they can work themselves and keep themselves in shape and get ready for the season. And I commend them for it. There are players that also don't do anything, that spend time with their loved ones. And there's nothing wrong with that. Baseball starts in February. Fair? It goes through November. So let's count down the months. We got February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, November. Okay, beginning of November. So October, really. So you got about 8 months of baseball, 7.5 months. And so I expect players during the offseason to spend a lot of time with their family. Think about this. I feel like baseball, and I may be wrong in this, but baseball gives up the most holidays throughout the course of the year. You got, you have Valentine's Day coming up this weekend, which I don't quite consider a holiday to be. You have St. Patrick's Day, which is another thing I don't really quite consider. I'll enjoy a good corned beef and cabbage meal, but that's pretty much it. But no, you got Memorial Day, you got Veterans Day, or Labor Day, whichever one it is at the end of the summer. You got Mother's Day, Father's Day. You have 4th of July. Some players will miss Halloween with their kids as well. And so it is a grind, and you do spend a lot of time away from your family throughout the course. And I'll say this respectfully to all the other sports out there, because it is true. You do spend a lot of time away from your families. You don't spend holidays. I mean, football, I think, is, you have Thanksgiving football, which on one hand, it's an honor to play on those special days. But on the other hand, it's time that you take away from your family, especially, even if you don't have a game, but you have to travel because you play the next day, or you got to play on Saturday, whatever the case may be. So I do understand what it goes through, and I can only imagine what family, it's not for the faint of heart, to be honest. But so in baseball, you're mentally prepared to begin this season that's going to keep you on the road. And you'll get brought up, you'll get sent down if you haven't already, if you're not, you're still kind of in the crossroads of becoming a major league baseball player. And so you may end up in Dayton, Ohio one month, and then get called up to Chattanooga, and then up to Louisville before getting called up to Cincinnati. So sure, that's an hour away, but that's still traveling. So where do you place your families at throughout the course of the year? All of those take into factors, and I do understand that, but there is still an element to coming into spring training and getting hurt. A few years back, I think this was headlines across a lot of sports, I know, especially out in San Diego. Fernando Tatis Jr. was dealing with an injury. He was down, I want to say, in Dominican Republic. It was during the offseason, and he gets hurt, according to reports. And that injury, this is not, so in the year prior to that, he was going to have, he rejected some injuries and that required surgery. And that was one of the conversations sports radio in San Diego had, is Tatis making the right decision not to get this surgery done that he needed? Well, he ends up, I think, injuring his wrist and required surgery on that before the season even started. And I believe this was during the pandemic year? Spring training reports, He ends up going to get, it was maybe the year after or the year prior, but he ends up getting surgery on his hand, ends up agreeing to the surgeries of that he didn't get done throughout the offseason. And then when he came back halfway through the year, it was revealed that he was tested positive for PED, and then was suspended for the rest of the year and then some of the following year. And that really put a damper because he just got done signing this mega contract with the Padres, and he's promoted as his future star. And it took a year off of his career, off of our pay. And it was like, well, what are we doing here? I saw injury reports lingering already, and one of them was a holiday from the Baltimore Orioles. You have a season-ending surgery on his shoulder. And I'm just like, oh no. Like, I do feel for these people. I hope they have a speedy recovery. They make a successful recovery and they're able to come back to doing what they love to do. But just imagine you are a fan of the Cincinnati Reds. I'm just going to use them for an example. And Ellie De La Cruz walks into camp this Saturday and gets evaluated from the doctors, and he needs surgery on something. Maybe the injury that held him back at the end of last year is still bothering him. And I'm just asking myself as a fan, we have done nothing throughout the offseason to address that matter. And that's where I just go a little bit crazy, because then we address it at the beginning of spring. And yes, as a fan, I'd want him to go get what he needs to get done and be healthy and get ready. But then if that means that we're costing him maybe a month or two out of the season, that's a key at bat. I mean, you take a look at a guy like Kris Bryant with the Colorado Rockies. He's only played 175 games since signing with the organization. He's expected to be out again for at least the beginning. Now, I get it. Here's the injury. It's a lumbar degenerative disc disease. But remember back when the Rockies made this deal and how the Rocky fans were excited about receiving Kris Bryant and having him play, thinking that this caliber player is going to elevate their organization. Maybe not the key player, but he's going to be a player that will impact. And now we see him possibly not playing baseball again. And the longer he stepped away from the game, the harder it's going to be. One thing about sports today is that injuries set you back. It provides a room for somebody to come in and to give themselves an opportunity to make a name for themselves. And if they're good enough, they have the same opportunity as you did to replace you at that position. And I get so worried about this time. This is where it really, for the next 6 weeks, it bothers me like no other, because I'm waiting for that negative report. I'm waiting to hear Hunter Green went down. He's going to be out for 6 months. I'm waiting for a Key Brian Hayes injuries or a Matt McClain injury or a Tyler Stevens injury. And it's gut-wrenching, because every time we build for some sort of success like this, it is just how it works, how the system works, where we have to deal with injuries. So Yeah, I'm speaking, mainly towards Cincinnati. It's fans, it's spring training, but it's the same around all 29 ball clubs. Like the Tigers just re-signed Justin Verlander. You do want him healthy. They also signed Framber Valdez on a 3-year deal. It would be just crazy to think that Framber ends up getting hurt or something like that. He's out for a couple years. But there's a lot of mixed emotions around this time of the year in baseball. On one hand, we're excited to see these players return. On the other hand, we're kind of grinding our teeth, sitting on our hands, waiting for that news report, and hope and we pray that everyone makes it through spring training healthy and that we can have an ideal roster on opening day like we want to. Because, I want to see all of our top players make opening day roster. And last year's opening day roster was probably not what we expected at all from the organization. And that dealt with because early injuries. So, anyways, I would like to hear from you. Is there a player out there that you're looking forward to with an organization on opening day that is currently or you are worried about that is going to get injured between now and opening day and will spend the first few days, weeks, whatever, on the IL on their organization? Let me know down in the comments below and let's have that conversation as well. I wanted to talk to you. I'll bring this up here real quick. I actually had it pulled up and then social media reset itself. So I could get to the right person. I wanted to review the Cincinnati Reds TV market deal. And I think that this is I want us to understand this. So if you're looking for Reds baseball this year, it's going to be done a little bit differently. Now, you can always catch the Reds baseball on WLW 700 WLW. And I think radio broadcast games are really better. What I actually like to do is I have T-Mobile as a phone provider, and MLB.com or MLB TV has offered T-Mobile users for a free access to their MLB TV subscription. And I really like it because, there's perks to it because I get all the out-of-market games. The one thing that I don't get are the Cincinnati Reds games, unless I have traveled. Like last year, I took a trip to Tennessee, and just for that weekend, I got Reds baseball. But television deals for baseball has always been a source of income. And for 2026, Cincinnati Reds are in partnership with Major League Baseball and a season pass subscription for Reds TV direct to consumer services are on sales now. For fans within the team's hometown television territory, which is, I believe, I don't know how north it is. I know there's Indiana, out east, and then I think down south to Tennessee, I think, right? You can stream all local distribution Reds games on Reds TV with no blackout dates by purchasing a one-time 2026 season pass for $100. Subscribers can watch Reds TV at home or on the go across multiple devices, which I think it finds useful. Major League Baseball will produce and distribute all local Reds games broadcast during the 2026 season. Additional streaming options and details regarding cable and satellite providers, including specific channel locations, will be announced at a later date. And so I say this because I get MLB TV. The times where I could get Reds on the television are for special events where the Reds are um, are premiered on WLW, for example, or on Fox or ESPN, or if there's Sunday Night Baseball, whatever those cases may be. But it is, I don't get them on a daily regimen like I hope. And so I don't know what I'm going to do this season, but I do know that I am going to look into how much it's going to cost because one, I love baseball and I want to watch the Reds. Don't get me wrong, I love listening. As a matter of fact, when I watch baseball games on TV, I like to actually turn it to the radio broadcast because I feel like I get more content on an audio level. Like that's something that I do when I go to bed, especially for the late night games. I'll turn on a game, I'll listen to the game while going to sleep, while having the game on in the background on television because in baseball, when you watch it on TV, it provides you room where you don't always get the action on TV compared to what you get when you listen to it. They got to provide more of a play-by-play segment. So, all I'm saying, that's just my preference. Anyways, for Reds fans, how are you guys watching Reds baseball this year? Are you guys watching Reds baseball through through a subscription, through cable? How are you guys able to get your game? And is that even something that's worth it? Baseball is a long season. For me as a sports fan, I love it. The more baseball I can get, the better. I'll even watch college baseball, which is coming up this week, and it's big for me. So, but how do you guys watch your baseball, and are these subscriptions worth it regardless of your team and regardless if your team is good or not? So, not just restricted for a comment purpose for the Cincinnati Reds. Any ball club out there, Miami, Pittsburgh, um, the Rockies, for example, where do you guys stand among all that? Let me know down in the comments below. All right, this week on Black History Month, the TNC Sports Talk would like to honor and recognize Athea Gibson as one of the black athletes to cross the color line in international tennis. In 1956, Athea was the first black player to win the Grand Slam event, the French Open. The following year, she went to both Wimbledon, or she won both Wimbledon and the U.S. National, which is the prosecutor of the U.S. Open, then won both again in 1958. She was voted for Female Athlete of the Year by the Associated Press in both years, and she won 11 Grand Slams, 5 single titles, 5 double titles, and 1 mixed double title. Athea was inducted into the National Tennis Hall of Fame in 1971 and the International's Women's Sports Hall of Fame in 1980. In the early 1960s, she became the first black player to compete in the Ladies Professional Golf Association. She coached Venus and Serena Williams, who are legends in the sport world today. Athea Gibson is just one of several pioneers to break the color barrier, and that is the reason why we recognize her this week and her success. So we recognize and honor Athea Gibson. There's an article that I have written about her on our Facebook page. You could head over to our TNC Sports Talk Facebook page to read all about it. I think it's actually on every platform and to check it out. And I encourage you to do so. We will have another um, article released this coming up Sunday for as we continue recognizing Black History Month and the accomplishments and the color barriers that people have made in sports history. Alrighty, I do want to get into a little bit of wrestling news here before we move on to football in our conversations. Um, it was actually just announced that, and I'm according to Sports Illustrated, WWE reveals when Brock Lesnar will appear next. And, it's WrestleMania season, the road to WrestleMania. And it's been announced that as business picks up here in 2 weeks on Monday Night Raw on Netflix, February 23rd, mark your calendars. That is literally in 2 weeks. Brock Lesnar will be in Atlanta for Monday Night Raw. And it's going to be interesting to see how WWE books Brock Lesnar for WrestleMania. Who would be his opponent? Who would you want to be his opponent for WrestleMania? And we haven't seen Brock Lesnar since the Royal Rumble. He had a square off with Obafemi. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he eliminated Obafemi. And early on, I've heard a lot of people say, well, that's going to be Gunther. He's going to end his career. The question is, I haven't seen anything regarding Brock Lesnar's career coming to an end. I know there has really been small talk here and there that he may retire according to wherever SummerSlam is held at this year. But that's all I really have heard. I haven't heard much of anything else, all speculations. And, Brock Lesnar says 2026 is his year to retire, and that's the case. Look, it looks great on a Gunther resume, but I feel like there are upcoming superstars, as we just mentioned, Obafemi for one, that can highly benefit from a match, a win, or even a loss from the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. Now, what I learned to appreciate Brock over the last few years and watching him, and especially watching him on this single run without a Paul Heyman, is how much fun he's having with this, with in-ring competition. And also his willingness to give back to the company. I've come to respect Brock Lesnar, not just with his accomplishments, but what he's been able to provide back to the company. And so I'm interested. I don't think it's time for him to retire. And I'm interested to seeing, heading into WrestleMania, who he is willing to work with, that he is willing to share the spotlight with, give credit to, and possibly even put over on the grandest stage of them all. And if the Royal Rumble indicated anything for me, knowing that Braun Breaker is currently out with an injury, knowing that it's time for either Logan Paul, Austin Theory, or hell, even Bronson Reed, hey, let's put your big boy shoes on and it's time to step up and kind of fill in that role. I don't see Brock anywhere near the vision, right? I see Obafemi from what we saw at the Royal Rumble. And, I got to say that would be one kicker of a match to watch. Two just Goliaths. And, you could see Obafemi, it's going to put a test to see if, hey, Brock, can you hang around still with this young, great, talented guy that can go toe-to-toe with you? Because he can. Or is he, are you kind of getting there? Maybe you lost a step or two. But that will be a really fun match to watch. No? Let me ask that on social media and get response. But the bottom line is that he's coming back in 2 weeks, probably set for a WrestleMania match. Another note for his retirement, I just wanted to point out real quick. With WrestleMania heading into Saudi Arabia next year, and I think it's fair to say we know that if Saudi Arabia, it comes with some alumni. It comes with some top-tier talent. If Brock Lesnar is still active now, would you think that the WWE would try and push him through next year so that he could be on the WrestleMania card in Saudi, maybe as per requested or demanded, whatever the situation holds, and give Saudi what they want at the end of the day? So, for those who are talking about Brock Lesnar's possible retirement, I feel like there's a little bit more work left within him. If it's to be accomplished by Gunther, fine, but you're going to have to wait another year or two before we could watch that. And that's fine by me. I'm still supportive of that. But I'm looking at right now. Right now does not indicate anything that he's retiring, anything that he is going to go up against Gunther, in my opinion. And I would like to see Obafemi and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. That's my opinion. Who would you like to see? Leave me a comment down below. I'll put up a poll on our Twitter account for you guys to pick. Before we get into our football segment of the day, I wanted to talk and invite you out to our Enlightened Studios upcoming production called Grassroots, which will be premiered at the Artsville Theater in Cincinnati, Ohio on February 20th through March 8th. Now, this production is getting closer to date. We're less than 3 weeks away, and there's a lot of excitement building around this. I was at rehearsals last night. I was talking to Terry and the team, and one thing we pointed out is that the overall message of this story, where the time, place, the controversy that it leads into, the drama, kind of has this Black History Month theme. And it just so happens that this is taking place at the end of February during Black History Month, which I think is great. Just the comparison, it wasn't intentional, but I feel like it was purposeful, meaningful. It was a reason why this needed to happen this month. And I was talking to Terry last night about it, and I was like, this production is a kickoff. This is one of the productions that you find that will be aired and premiered at the beginning of every year. And, and just like there are movies and films and clips that you premiere at the end of the year and at the beginning of the year, this is one of those. Grassroots is set in the 1950s. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of drama. There's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of truths and realities behind this production. The casts are really embedded into it. And when you can feel this cast and this camaraderie of the group of people that's been selected, it just makes this a much bigger deal. So if you guys are not doing anything, there are 8 performances between February 27th and March 8th, Artsville Theater, Cincinnati, Ohio. Tickets are available by getting them at tickettailor.com. Yes, you could come in and get them at the door. That's not an issue. But I encourage you to get them earlier, reserve your seats, reserve your dates and times, and save a little bit money while you're doing so, right? Tax season's here, use that money wisely. There are vendors, booths, concessions. It's about a 2-hour running program with an intermission. I can't encourage you enough, but to get your tickets, a link will be provided in the description below. And I will also get some content to air with you on this show for the production here. I'm going to say probably beginning of next week. So you guys can listen and hear yourself about what is going on and why you should go out and watch this show. Grassroots, February 27th through March 8th. Alrighty. So football season's over with. Doesn't mean that we can't continue talking about football. And I wanted to have this segment to really just open up. So I kind of did this thing. And I know the Pro Bowl was last weekend, and the Pro Bowl had, your all-star selected talented players representing AFC and NFC in a 7-on-7. Well, after the Super Bowl, based off of what I saw last season, based off of who made highlights last season, I wanted to give you my 7-on-7 take and who on the AFC and NFC side honestly deserve, if I would put together a small little team, who would I select from each league? Now, today I'm only going to give you offensive players. So I got one quarterback, one running back, one tight end, and I'm going to do 4 wide receivers. Okay. And so I went through the list. I selected who would all qualify for me. And I was looking at some of this list and I was like, everyone has a compelling taste. Now, I don't want to give you any biased opinions. I want to be as straightforward as possible. And this is not all going to be based off of who made the playoffs, who won the Super Bowl. Just who is, I feel like if I had a chance to throw that person out there on my team, put this little dream team together, who would be the best of the best, in my opinion, right now at the end of this past season. So, on the AFC side, like I said, not biased, I think Joe Burrow. And when I was going through this list, I found it interesting that I didn't find Patrick Mahomes on this list. I didn't feel like he was credible enough to make this list. I had Justin Herbert as a candidate, Bo Nix, Drake May, Josh Allen, even Lamar Jackson. But I choose Joe Burrow because I feel like he's the most consistent. And I feel like when I pair this up with a lot of these other guys, I think that he has a strong case that he could at least work with. At the running back, position in the AFC, I know he's had a few games that were imperfect, but I feel like one of the dangerous players that I could that's strong, breaks tackles, and when he could break through secondary, he goes, has to be Derrick Henry. So I have Derrick Henry as my running back for the AFC. Tight end. I had runners up like Hunter Henry, Evan Ingram, Travis Kelce, but ultimately I had to go with Brock Bowers. There's not much to offer in Vegas, but Brock Bowers is still a true candidate. If you kind of get him out of his comfort wheel, you get him out of Vegas, you get him with a team that is serious about contending, I feel like it elevates his game. That is one thing about a crappy team, that you have one, maybe 2 top stars that you feel like, oh, they're elite players. They need to go to a team that is going to win because they deserve to play in that caliber. And I agree. But when you have a crappy team and you have and those players are elite star players, when they move over to a better team, I think it becomes a true test if they're just that good. Because what you would consider elite stars for a team like the Raiders or the Cardinals, for example, are probably just your average Joe players, maybe subpar, and they stop and they're not as good as they were because they were highlighted. They made all the incredible plays again with a bad team, but they go to a good team now, and to be honest, they're just average. My 4 wide receivers, like you said, I'm not here to be biased, but I have Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, DK Metcalf, and Marvin Mims. Those are my 4 receivers I would select. So it would be Joe Burrow, Derrick Henry, Brock Bowers, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, DK Metcalf, and Marvin Mims as my 7 players for the AFC that I think would be a great matchup to watch going up against this NFC I'm about to select. So, starting off with my quarterbacks, I threw in Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy, Matthew Stafford, Bryce Young, and Caleb Williamson. Caleb Williamson, I will understand that he's had some really good plays and key moments for the Bears, but I can't select him because I don't know if he's ready yet for that spotlight. It's hard not to bank on what we saw with Sam Darnold. Now, if Matthew Stafford was healthy, then I think it would have been an easy run for Matthew Stafford to be selected here. But I'd go with Sam Darnold. I feel like he is the best option out of all the NFC quarterbacks right now, that if I had to create a team, I'd want him to lead that team the way. As my running backs, Saquon Barkley, Kenneth Walker, DeAndre Swift, Chuba Hubbard, Parkey Irving, Christian McCaffrey, and I have to honestly would pair that up with a Saquon Barkley. I just think that you would get the best out of him. Kenneth Walker is, let's admit, a little bit older, right? Probably not too much older than Saquon in the league, but I just don't know if I could get the same consistency out of Kenneth on a week in and week out basis. Tight end position, the options I had were Sam Laporta, Tucker Kraft, Tyler Higbee, and George Kittle. This one was a little bit difficult for me. I have to go with Tucker Kraft. I think he provides an explosiveness off the line, and I think he's really well for some short routes. As my wide receivers, I would select Deebo Samuel, DJ Moore, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp. Now, runners-up were Brandon Ayuk and Chris Godwin. But based off, to be able to see Cooper Kupp be a leading cause to a team to win a Super Bowl, on not one, but 2 teams, and also 2 teams in the same division, how does he not make that list? I know Puka had a couple of drop missed passes that it's not typical of him during the postseason. but I feel like he'd still be a star today. I would put Puka as your number 1, Debo as number 2, Cooper as number 3, and DJ Moore at number 4. And I say DJ Moore because he made some pretty impressive passes. I think he'll fly under the radar and catch some people napping. I would have Jamar Chase as number 1, Stephon Diggs at number 2, DK Metcalf at number 3, and Marvin Mims at number 4. Another nap catcher right there. So those would be my top 7 if I selected today based off of their performance last season, 7-on-7 concept. I'd like to hear what you guys have to think or say about that. So please leave a comment in the comment section below. Feel free to reach out to me and on any social media platforms. And I want to hear your voice. It could possibly get on to our upcoming episodes. So this is a Wednesday's episode. I hope everyone enjoyed themselves. I'm actually very surprised that I was able to complete a full hour of content. We will be back again tomorrow. And I know tomorrow has its own challenges on a Thursday, but we'll get there. Maybe talk some more Reds baseball and get you guys ready for preseason, which comes up a week from Saturday against the Cleveland Guardians. But in the meantime, I invite you to follow us on our social media platforms. You can find us at the TNC Sports Talk. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And be sure to stay up to date with all of our news and information. You can like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel by visiting TNC Sports Talk. We are beginning our spring training AI games for MLB The Show 25. It will take us through the 2025 spring training schedule according to what they have available. And I will have those spring training games done, presented, and then we roll over to the 2026 MLB The Show for the regular season. But that's what we're looking forward to on our YouTube channel. And also, you could follow us on all of our audio platforms. We could be founded on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. If we're not on there, let me know, and I will do the best I can to get us on there. But that is all the time I have for you guys today, this evening. Please be safe. Please stay warm, stay dry. This fluctuated weather and all that fun stuff. We will be back again tomorrow, but until then, enjoy the rest of your evening and have a good night. Take care.